What happened? All the things that were there in the bag just flew out of the bag, and it was spread to a distance or to the size of a tennis court. You know the tennis court? The play, uh, ball tennis or lawn tennis or table tennis. It has spread. The things that were fallen from the bag have spread to such a distance. But what happened to the author? He was dumbstruck. He was dumbstruck. He was speechless as 100 carefully sorted documents came raining down in a fluttery cascade. Coins bounced to a variety of noisy oblivions, and the now lidless tin of tobacco rolled crazily across the concourse, disgorging its contents as it went. So he was speechless when he was watching all the documents were coming and falling like a waterfall. Documents are flying, all the papers are flying like a waterfall, cascade. Coins bouncing with noisy oblivions. And a tobacco tin was lidless. There was no lid on the tobacco tin, and that was rolling, and all that were there in the tobacco tin were ejected, disgorging its contents. Whatever was there in the tobacco tin, that was disgorging, that was discharging, that was coming out. So to see all these things, he was speechless and was crying, "My tobacco!" I cried in, excuse me, horror, thinking, would I have to pay? What I would have to pay for that much tobacco in England? That another budget had come and gone, and then changed the cry to my finger, as I discovered that I had gashed my finger on the zip and was shedding blood in a lavish manner. I'm not very good around flowing blood generally, but when it's my own, well, I think it's tricks. Okay, he was shouting when he saw the tobacco tin discharging the content. He was trying in horror, my tobacco, because it is very expensive in England. And suddenly he shifts his cry from tobacco to my finger, because he had gashed his finger. What is the meaning of gashed? Cut deeply. He cut his finger deeply, and the blood is coming out in a lavish manner. If it is of some other's blood, that's fine, but it is his own blood. So he started crying, shouting in pain, crying in pain, and he was confused and unable to help, and here his hair went into panic mode. Because when you feel afraid, the hair on the body that goes into panic mode. So the same thing was with Arthur. And sometimes his hair also might have gone to panic mode. That's when his wife came and looked at him with an expression that was not wonder, that was not anger, that was not irritation or aspiration, but it's a simple wonder. But she said something, I can't believe you do this for a living. Is that the way to live? You are behaving very cheaply. Something like that she said. But I'm afraid it's so. Always have catastrophes when I travel. So this is what the incident that was shared by him in the previous occasion was, the travel journey with his family. But now the fourth incident, but I'm afraid it's so. I always have catastrophes when I travel. So now he's talking about another travel experience. Once on an airplane, I leaned over to tie a shoelace. Just at the moment, someone in the seat ahead of me threw his seat back onto full recline, and found myself pinned helplessly in the crash position. Just imagine, my dear students, they were sitting in the airplane. One fellow was sitting at the front seat. He is just then bowing down or bending down to tie his lace. That's when he just came back in what position? he leaned over. What position it was? A full recline. No, we just go back, semi-sleeper like. That fellow was sitting at the front. He came in full recline. That's all. He was crushed. He was not able to move out. It was only by clawing the leg of the man sitting next to me that I managed to get myself freed. So he was in a crushed position, bending down. So he requested the other person and he adjusted his legs to free himself. That was another, confusing incident or embarrassing incident for the author. So you can see that from the picture. See, he was crushed. The author was crushed. Look at the picture. A person who is heavyweight champion is coming with full recline. So how will he be able to come out of that position? Okay, so these are all the experiences that the author had experienced. Okay, this however was not my worst experience on a plane flight. My worst experience was when I was writing important thoughts in a notebook. So he has the habit of writing something, in a notebook, like buy socks, clutch drinks carefully. So all the thoughts are brought into words in a notebook. Sucking thoughtfully on the end of my pen as you do, and fell into conversation with an attractive young lady in the next seat. As he was writing, he just took his pen and he was sucking thoughtfully on the end of his pen. And he was talking, or he was into a conversation with a beautiful young lady in the next seat. I amused her for perhaps 20 minutes with a scattering of urban bone mold, then retired to the lavatory where I discovered. Okay, see, he was into this conversation with that young lady, a young and beautiful lady. So he was into that conversation for 20 minutes. The one, no, the bon mot is a French phrase which means witty remarks. He was cracking joke and making her laugh and amusing her for the 20 minutes. And once he did that, he went to the lavatory, to the restroom in the aeroplane, where he discovered that the pen had leaked and that his mouth, chin, tongue, teeth, gums were now a striking scrub resistant navy blue and would remain so for several days. So all over his face, the ink of the pen had leaked and spoiled everything. He didn't know that. Not knowing this, he was into conversation to that young lady. And it remained for so many days. This is also another confusing moment that he experienced in the flight travel. Okay, then, so you will understand, I trust, when I tell you how much I hate to be suave. Okay, so he's telling, many times I tried to be sophisticated and polite. I would love just once in my life to rise from a dinner table without looking as if I have just experienced an extremely localized seismic event. So he's just telling he wanted to be polite and sophisticated in some activities like rising from a dinner table. Just imagine he is sitting in front of the dining table. Whenever he gets up, he creates a seismic event. What is the meaning of seismic event? Like an earthquake. So all the things that are on the table, dining table, will have a shake. Without that, he won't get up. He tried many times, but he couldn't. That was one thing. The next one, get in a car and close the door without leaving 14 inches of coat outside. Whenever he gets into the car, some part of his coat was outside the car door. Whenever he closes the car door, some part of his coat was let outside. That's also an embarrassing moment. And then wear light colored trousers. He always wears light colored pants. But once he reaches home at the end of the day, he discovers so many things. What is that? Sat on chewing gum by mistake. He doesn't know how to carry himself. Otherwise he sits on ice cream or cough syrup or motor oil. He doesn't want to be like that. But these things happen in his life. All embarrassing. He tried to be polite and sophisticated, but he couldn't. Okay. Now on the planes, when the food is delivered, my wife says, this happens when he travels as a family. Okay. When the food is delivered, what happens? His wife will say like that, shout like this, take the lids off the food for daddy. Or put your hoods up, children. Daddy is about to cut his meat. Of course, this is only when I'm flying with my family. So, always when the food is delivered in the airplane, when he travels with his family, this is the regular shouting from his wife. What is that? Take the lids off the food. Neengale moodi eduthirunga. Take the lids off. Dad is going to start eating. Otherwise, you cover your head with your hood. Something connected to the dress which we can cover with a hood, right? So do that. Either you take the lid off or you cover your hood because dad is going to start his meal or cut his meat. We will do something which will disturb the people sitting around him. So this was when he was flying with his family. When I am on my own, whenever he travels alone, he doesn't eat, drink, or lean over to tie my shoelace. No, never put a pen anywhere near his mouth. I just sit very, very quietly, sometimes on my hands to keep them from flying out unexpectedly. He just folds hand like this and keeps them from flying out unexpectedly and causing liquid mischief. What's the meaning of the word liquid mischief? Silly mistakes. Okay, silly mistakes. Liquid mischiefs means small, silly mistakes. He doesn't want to interfere into any of that action. So he closes, he shuts, or he folds his hands. He keeps his hands very quietly and folds to keep them from unnecessary problems. It's not much fun, but it does at least cut down on the laundry bills. So when I keep my hands quiet, controlled, I can save some amount of money from laundry bills. Otherwise, he would stain his dress or other people's dress. Okay? When he travels on his own, he doesn't try anything. Okay? Then, I never did get my frequent flyer miles, by the way. I never do. I couldn't find the card in time. This has become a real frustration for me. Everyone I know, everyone is forever flying off to Bali first class with the air miles. I never get to collect anything. I must fly 100,000 miles a year. Yet I have accumulated only about 212 air miles divided between 23 airlines. Okay, I never did get my frequent flyer miles. So he did not get this privilege of traveling for long distance. Why? I couldn't find the card in time. Why couldn't he do that? Why couldn't he fly for a long time, for a long travel? Because he couldn't find the card in time. This has become a real frustration for him. So everyone is forever flying off to Bali first class with their air miles. I never collect anything. He travels a lot. Yet, he travels in 23 different airlines, and when you divide the distance he traveled, it comes only to 212 air miles. Why? Why there's a problem? See, what's the problem? Okay, this is because either I forget to ask for the air miles when I check in, or I remember to ask for them, but the airline then manages not to record them. So, his travel is not at all recorded. That's why he is not given. No, he forgets to ask for the air miles when he checks in. He doesn't give. He has the card அப்படின்னு சொல்லி கொடுக்க மாட்டாரு. Or I remember to ask for them, but the airline then manages not to record them. Or if he remembers, they rejects. They don't record is travel into frequent flyer and the privilege இதுக்குள்ள வராது. Or the check-in clerk informs me that I am not entitled to them. So otherwise, the check-in clerk will come and let him know that you are not. That means that the author is not entitled for that privilege. He tells what happens in the month of January. In January, on a flight to Australia, a flight for which I was going to get about a zillion air miles, the clerk shook her head when I presented my card and told me I was not entitled to any. So once he was wanting to fly to Australia, okay, what happened? He was going to get about a zillion air miles. It's a long way, it's a long travel. Don't take zillion into literal count. It's a long travel. But the clerk shook her head when he presented the card and she said, you are not entitled. You are not eligible for the privilege card. Your travel cannot be considered into that miles. And he asks, why? I'm traveling to a long distance. I should enjoy some privilege. So he's presenting his card, but that is not recorded in his card. Why? Because the ticket is in the name of B. Bryson and the card is in the name of W. Bryson. Okay? The ticket he gets for his travel says B. Bryson. But the card he owns has a different name, different initial, that is W. Bryson. I explained to her the close and venerable relationship between Bill and William, but she would not have it. So he tries to explain that what is the problem with the ticket initial and the card initial, but she would not consider that at all. So I did not get my air miles, and I won't be flying to Bali first class just yet. Perhaps just as well, really. I could never go that long without eating. So it's a long travel. He has to go without eating, because if he tries eating, he will disturb everything who is sitting next to him. So he has to go without eating. So why that problem? What is that B. Bryson and W. Bryson? You might get confused. See here, William, the letter W is changed to B, and William is called Bill. So his name is different. Bill Bryson, but his full name is William Bill Bryson. Okay, so his full name. So the card has W. Bryson, but his ticket has B. Bryson. But both are his name. But there is a contradiction both in the card and in the ticket. So he is not enjoying the privilege of that travel. So whatever he tries, it ends up in confusion. It puts him in an embarrassing situation that he brings out as a lesson in the series of experiences to make this lesson very interesting. So he has a lot of experiences and he would love to be polite and sophisticated, but he couldn't. Okay, so hope you understand this lesson. God bless.